Hello and welcome back to another how to paint tutorial. Last time we managed to paint up this nice little space wolf, and I was going to do a Thousand Suns, more so just for the memes of it. But this time, because I'm still waiting on kind of a new order of Abaddon Black, I figure we'll do some Emperor's Children. And I have a couple of different paints here, and I'm going to try to see what kind of looks the best. But I think we're going to start out with a nice coat of Nagaroth Night here. And we're actually going to be using this as the undercoat. Usually I'll do Abaddon Black, or if I'm doing a lighter color, I'll do kind of a gray sear. But this time I'm going to change things up a little bit, and we're kind of going to see if it makes even a slight difference. And even I'm going to change this up a little bit. Normally I don't show my palette, just for the sake that I don't think it's too important. But in the hopes of kind of showcasing what I mean by thinning paints, I will kind of keep it on camera here and there. So we do have a little bit of water mixed in with our paint. You can see it's kind of transparent, which means we may have to do one or two layers, but we'll go ahead and start slapping it on our model here and kind of see what we get out of it. Now this is actually the first time I'm using Nagaroth Night, so I'm not really sure kind of how thick the pigment is. Sometimes it's a little bit darker, and you need a little bit more water mixed in. Sometimes you don't. It just kind of depends on what color you're using, whether it's metallic or not. So it's all kind of variable. And I do want to say, before we get into the Warhammer lore and I start diving a little bit deep into the Emperor's Children themselves, I've been playing a ton of Factorio recently, and I don't even have the DLC yet. The Space Age DLC just dropped maybe 2 weeks ago now. Man, I'm actually hooked. I keep picking this game up every now and then, and I'll kind of get frustrated and I'll drop it. And then a few weeks will go by and I'll pick it up again. But this time it's really sank its claws into me. If you guys know what I'm talking about, if you've played it, it definitely has taken a major hold of my life. So we'll kind of see if I manage to get my backlog of videos that I've been meaning to do forever. It's definitely a balancing act between having a very small child, trying to find time to play games, and also trying to find time to do Warhammer related stuff, whether that's books or painting models. I will say though that in terms of Warhammer, I don't really know much about Emperor's Children other than the Horus Heresy era stuff. I know they're like full-on chaos, and that's cool. Normally I don't really mess with the Chaos Legions as much, but I do kind of like the loyalist lore behind them, especially in the case of Emperor's Children. Their big thing, even before kind of falling to chaos, was perfection and pride in the way that they conducted warfare, which is kind of cool, if I'm honest. The I think the second book in the Heresy series focuses on them. Maybe even the third book. I'm not sure which one. It's whenever Saul Tarvitz is kind of the main character, and I've got to say they are absolutely awesome. They have some great writing, and part of that goes to the authors, of course. But they definitely always kind of stuck out to me as one of the cooler legions before the fall, obviously. Now that they're chaos, I don't really care too much about them. That's usually the way it goes with most of them. But they definitely have some cool stories. I think I forget the name of the race that they're fighting. They're called like the Lair or the Lear. It starts with an L. It's spelled kind of weird though, so I'm not sure which one it is. But it's one of the first Horus Heresy stories, and essentially Fulgrim manages to get possessed by one of their like artifacts they find. That entire battle is so well written, and I absolutely love it. They're fighting on like these platforms that are kind of suspended in the air, and they just go through like knocking them out one by one, and they're just fully engaged in like brutal melee combat the entire time. It's great, absolutely great. Highly suggest, of course, reading the entire Horus Heresy if you haven't already. It's a long journey, but the first few books specifically are absolutely perfect writing. I love them all. With that being said, though, the not to spoil anything, of course, but also it's an old enough series that I don't think it's a really big issue now. I don't like Fulgrim's Fall to Chaos. I think it's kind of goofy. I think him getting possessed by the sword is kind of lame, and it's a little bit of a cop out in my opinion. And then they kind of retcon it, like partially, later on in the series to say he wasn't actually possessed. He just pretended to be or something. I don't know. That whole thing is goofy. But when the Emperor's children themselves, all of the Astartes, like fully transformed to chaos, there's a really, I would kind of consider it infamous scene where they're at this opera because they have like remembrancers and artists and stuff on their fleet before they fall to non-loyal side. But they have this wild scene where they basically just fall to chaos and pride and lust in the middle of like this opera. One of the like most famous, I think, singers is performing, and they just out of nowhere like start transforming into demons and start like slaughtering all of the civilians. It's wild, and it's very well written. So definitely check out those first few books. I'll have to Google which one it is specifically for the next episode, but yeah, they're great, and I cannot recommend them enough. In terms of current 40k stuff, I know that we're getting some Emperor's Children's models, I think next year, which is cool, but they're for the Horus Heresy, so that's a little less cool. I would really like some 40k specific models, but that's alright. I think they're mostly just Noise Marines now. I'm not really sure. They don't really pop up too much in like current lore, as far as I can tell. They do pop up in a Eisenhorn novel, which is kind of cool. Only one of them though, and he gets killed relatively quickly, so a little bit disappointing. But they're still around. They're still active. All of it's good stuff. I like reading about all of the different legions, even if some of them are lamer than others. As in the Black Legion, I think are pretty lame. But I would definitely like to see, more of a focus on them kind of in the lore going forward. That's not, Fabius Bile related. And now that we've kind of covered the entirety of this model, I still have a few little nooks and crannies I want to knock out here. I'm going to talk about the next step we're going to do, and it's probably going to encompass the majority of this episode. But we're going to be doing a layer paint on top of this, and that's why I'm really focusing on getting a solid coverage on this first kind of layer, because if you've never used layer paints before or you've never seen them, they are really, really thin to the point of being like transparent almost. And if your undercoat is patchy and rough looking, then your layer on top of that is gonna kind of reflect that, unfortunately. So we're gonna do our best to make sure that doesn't happen. And I think, let me take one last little look around. I think we're looking pretty solid. Now, I don't know like the official, paint scheme that they're supposed to use, just because I don't really care. They don't have like a, like a uniform kind of scheme, I guess, when it comes to like standard Space Marines. Obviously, they didn't get the whole like Primaris upgrade because Chaos doesn't have that. But I am going to try my best to kind of paint them as if they did. And actually, we're going to be doing Xerxes purple. Xerxes? I don't know. And let me get all of the water off my brush actually, because layer paints, as we learned when we did our salamander, are extra thin. And let's get a little bit more mixed in there. You can kind of see how transparent it is just as I'm trying to get some on my brush here. And let's go ahead and apply this all over. That is a very nice shade, actually. I'm kind of glad that I decided on Xerxes to be our second layer. I was kind of debating. I wasn't sure which one would look better, so I was only going to do one or the other, but I am glad that I decided to do both. Again, I've never painted these guys before. I've wanted to for quite a while, and I'm a little bit sad that they don't really have their own kind of 40k line, which I think is the case for like all of the Chaos Legions, besides like the Thousand Suns and the Black Legion. Nobody else really seems to have like their own specific units, which sucks. You just kind of have to repaint all of the other guys. I do want to do some, what do you call them? The Thousand Suns, the Rubric Marines. I do want to get a box of them at some point. I really love the look of them. I'm a little bit intimidated by all of the line work that I'd have to do. They have a lot of edge trimming, and their like little headdress piece things have like some really kind of, I don't know, awkward spots that I would not look forward to painting, but you know, we'll try it. It kind of looks like it'll be more or less difficult compared to like Hazard Stripes, which is the same reason I haven't painted Iron Warriors yet. So we'll see. We'll get there definitely, but for right now, we're just gonna be kind of focusing on this guy, and then next, I definitely want to do a loyalist Thousand Sun. So instead of the blue and gold, we'll be doing the red and gold color scheme, which I'm still debating which red I want to do for that. I have Mephiston red, I have Evil Suns, or Evil Suns? I don't know, something Suns Scarlet, which I just got. I haven't used it yet, but I'm definitely excited to see how that looks. And of course I have Corn red, so we'll see. And I've mentioned it in my last series, but I haven't mentioned it yet in this one, so I want to throw out that I'm waiting on a order from Games Workshop. I bought the new the Red Gobbo mini. He looks awesome. I really like it. Last year's I wasn't too excited about. It didn't really kind of suit my fancy, so I didn't order it. But this year's looked great. And I also ordered the Sanguinor, so those are some upcoming projects that I'm very excited for. Kind of keep a lookout for those if those kind of pique your interest. If not, don't worry about it too much. I don't expect everyone to want to watch every single video, so don't worry about it too much if that's not something you have any interest in. And I think we are just about done with this one. This layer, at least. I just want to make sure I get all of these little indentations here and all of those little hard to reach spots. For the gun, normally I do like a black or a red, kind of depending on which legion I'm doing. I'm thinking we're going to do like white and gold this time. I feel like that'd be kind of cool. And then of course all of the other kind of little highlights and bits and bobs and the shoulder trim are going to be gold as well, because the main color for these guys is obviously purple and gold. So that'll be kind of fun. I really like shoulder trim. It's very relaxing to me. Maybe that makes me weird. I don't know, but we'll see how it turns out. And originally I actually wasn't going to do this helmet, the purple. I was going to do it white. I still might. Now that I've kind of committed to it, I don't know. It was accidental the first time, but I just kind of went with it. And I think we're ready to move on to our next color here. So I'm going to go ahead and wash off our brush a little bit, and I'm actually going to switch to a much smaller brush because we're going to be doing some much more precise precision work, I guess, for lack of a better word. And I've got like 20 brushes on my desk. I think we're going to go with this one. It doesn't actually... No. I thought it told me what size it was on there. These are really cheap brushes I got from Temu, so it doesn't surprise me that it doesn't say. And we're going to go ahead and get another kind of undercoat going, give this a nice little shake. We're going to be doing Gracier, which is normally what I like to do for the whole model, either that or Abaddon Black. But for this one, we're just going to be applying it to the gun, his little bolter. And let's move our kind of palette around a little bit. I don't want to mix any purple in. And we're just going to make sure we have a nice, even kind of undercoat going on with the bolter itself. And I'll try my best not to get it on any of that armor, but I can't promise anything. I'm trying to go a little bit quick, not as precise as I would try to be if I was doing this on my own without recording it, but for the sake of time, I am rushing things along a little bit, as always. It's actually, I don't know if you guys have this kind of issue or not. When I'm painting like individual units, like even if I'm like batch painting squads or whatever, I take forever. And it kind of surprises me. I managed to get these models out as quick as I do for my videos, because if I'm not recording and I'm doing something like a single Space Marine, like that can take me up to like 4 hours. Like I really slow down and I just get into it, and part of it is I just kind of lose track of time and I don't really pace myself at all. But also part of it is I just really like to slow down and focus on like every single brush stroke, because otherwise I just feel like I'm going too quick. So it is kind of a weird change of pace for me, and something I've kind of been trying to adapt to with doing videos. But overall, I think it's a net positive. I'm kind of learning that balance between like speed and things looking nice. And I haven't painted anything on my own without recording it for a while, but I'm sure I'd be a little bit quicker if I did one now. And I've actually got quite a few projects that I'm going to knock out without recording, either just because I think it'd be boring or because I've already kind of started them. Mainly that involves Guilliman, which at some point I do want to get another for the channel, because I think he'd be a fun model to kind of do a video on. But I've got one already that's like, I want to say 70% finished. But man, there's just so much gold trim on him. It literally takes forever to do. And I've been working on him for probably 6 months now. I've been on quite the hiatus from it, just because I'm dreading going back and finishing him up. But someday I'll go back, and hopefully I'll be able to finish him up. I think around like Christmas, I want to do like an army kind of showcase thing. I mentioned this in one of my comments on one of my last videos. Someone was asking about it. I do have quite a few models, and I would love to kind of show them off. So I'm thinking I'm going to knock out a few more pieces and kind of do some stuff on my own time, and that way I can make it look all nice and finished. And around Christmas time, I think I want to do something like that. So that definitely gives me incentive to finish Guilliman. And let me turn us around just a little bit here. I know I'm going some awkward angles. Unfortunately, that's the way it goes. But in the sake of time, we're almost finished here. So I do want to shout out real quick. I have a Patreon. If you guys like these videos and you just want to support this channel, that's a great way to do it. Otherwise, I would always appreciate you guys liking, commenting, subscribing, the whole kit caboodle. All of it helps me out greatly, and especially comments. It's one thing for like likes and whatnot. I guess they help analytics. I don't really care about that though. Mainly, I care about comments. I love getting feedback from you guys. I love interacting with you guys. So definitely consider leaving one. It does kind of help me gauge my feedback. So something to consider. Otherwise, for now, we are going to be finished. We'll do a quick little spinaroo here so you guys can kind of see what we've done. And all I really want to say is thank you very much for watching, and hopefully you'll join us for the next episode.